So this offseason, the Lakers really rounded out the roster, what appeared to be great, right? They got good size, they added some shooting, they added some defense, they added a bit of athleticism, they added a bit of everything that the Lakers needed to make a good push this season and be a championship level contender. And through the first 8 games, it just hasn't had the success, right? They just look out of sorts. When they run sets and they actually run plays, like even in the watch along yesterday, I was sitting there calling every time that they run a set, they're good positive results. They get a bucket. But then you see them kind of settle, and Austin Reaves is like trying to do too much and trying to like regain his offense and just forcing shots, and D'Lo just taking early threes, and LeBron and everybody's just kind of doing this isolation rather than moving the ball freely. And it's really odd because in preseason, you saw how good the Lakers, they had preseason games where they had like 30 assists. And the offense was flowing and guys were cutting, and you saw the potential there. And I know you can't just base everything off of preseason, but the things that looked good for the Lakers were all things that should have translated come the regular season. And they just haven't translated yet. A lot of it is injuries, right? The Lakers have suffered injuries. A lot of it's just been guys aren't playing well, right? We have yet to have one game where D'Lo and Reaves are both good, right? It's either D'Lo has a really good game and Reaves is unplayable, or Reaves has a really good game and D'Lo is like unplayable. And then you have some of these like role guys, some of these rotation guys, and they're just not being consistent as well. Outside of LeBron and AD, we're getting no real consistency. And I talked about over on As It Stands Lakers that like I think it's time we need to do a starting 5 change, right? Obviously, when Vando comes back, there is the argument of like, well, this unit, right? If you swap Prince with Vando, this unit is a unit that went to the conference finals, and Vando kind of balances everything out better, right? Especially on the defensive side of things. Even last year, we went from like middle of the pack defensively to the number 1 defense in the league just with Jared Vanderbilt, right? So you got to imagine that that's going to have the same level of impact because Jared Vanderbilt just covers so much ground. But even then, if D'Lo and Reaves aren't hitting shots, that becomes a problem, right? So the big issue is the Lakers are literally the worst first quarter team in the history of basketball, or the history of the NBA, at least dating back the last 28 years when, the metrics and stuff were a thing. But according to people, like, hey, it's the worst ever in history, right? So the Lakers are a minus 74 in the first quarter as a team. And the next 2 teams behind them are the Memphis Grizzlies, who are terrible, and the Hornets, who have been terrible, right? So talking about two of the worst teams in the league, or at least right now. We'll see what happens with Grizzlies when Jacques comes back. But right now, they have been the worst team in the league, and we're worse than them in the first quarter. The second halves were incredible. The second halves were really good. But at that point, the game is usually so far out of hand that it's becoming an issue. A minus 74 in the first quarter? The first quarter. That is through 8 games. That's almost an average of a minus 10 per game, per first quarter. That's ridiculous. You can't have that happen. And again, it's the lack of shooting. Our 3 volume 3-point shooters are LeBron James, Austin Reaves, and D'Angelo Russell, right? Those 3 guys are taking up 50%, half of our 3-point shots. Not Taurean Prince, right? You got Austin Reaves, D'Angelo Russell, and LeBron James, which LeBron James last year was terrible. He's kind of not been great this year, right? D'Lo and Reaves, they were both 40+% last season. This season, you got Austin Reaves at 28%, and then D'Angelo Russell's at 32%. It's not going to cut it. When your 3 best guys are shooting low 30s to high 20s, you're not going to win many games, right? Now, the Lakers are also dead last in 3-point percentage, shooting 29.6%, but they also take the second fewest threes in the league, which, you could look at as like, okay, that's a good thing. right? They're attacking the paint, they're getting inside, but they're also missing a ton of free throws a game. Like, it's great that they're being aggressive and they're not settling and being reliant on the three ball, especially when you can't shoot the three ball this year for whatever reason, which we'll touch on here in a second. But beyond that, it's like you're being aggressive, you're getting to the foul line, and you're just missing the free throws. I mean, we had a stretch where like Rui missed 2 out of 3, LeBron missed like 2 out of 4. Like, it's just you're just giving away points. They're called free throws for a reason. I mean, everybody, I mean, even the greatest free throw shooters ever, Steph Curry, guys like that, all miss free throws from time to time, right? And none of these guys are like Steph Curry free throw level, but it's just like, it's like a coin flip when they're shooting free throws, right? It's like, okay, is LeBron going to make these two, or is he going to miss both or miss one of them, right? Same thing with, I mean, even Reaves has missed them. D'Lo, like, D'Lo's been a lot better shooting free throws this season than he was last season for the Lakers, but still, like, so you can't shoot the ball, period. And it's becoming a problem, right? Like, and this is a team that has multiple guys that can shoot 38 to 40% from three. We don't have a true shooter, right? Like, that's what the idea of like a Malik Beasley was. High volume, catch fire, true like shooter, right? Think of like a Buddy Hield. Like, a Buddy Hield would be great, right? You get Buddy Hield guy, he's a true high volume 3-point shooter that can knock it down at an efficient clip. We don't have anybody like that, but we have enough guys that are good enough to shoot the ball efficiently from the 3-point range that just aren't, right? And this is a team that I thought at worst would be middle of the pack 3-point shooting, maybe even closer to the top 10 3-point shooting. I thought it really came down to LeBron. How well does LeBron shoot the 3-ball? Because LeBron's going to shoot 6 to 7 threes a game, which he is. And so it was like, okay, if LeBron shoots, say, 7 threes and he's at like 30% or 31%, which he is, I was like, that's going to bring your 3-point percentage down if like D'Lo, Reaves, Prince, and everybody are shooting 40+%, which Taurean Prince is shooting the best at everybody. Like, why isn't he taking a majority of the attempts? Why aren't we getting him more quality looks? He's shooting close to 40%, right? Like, it's an issue when your 3 most volume 3-point shooters are all shooting the ball terribly. LeBron, I'm not like so surprised on. He's always been a streaky shooter, right? And he's never been like a great like 40% 3-point shooter, right? But D'Lo and Reaves, like, that's their bread and butter. Their ability to hit the 3-ball at an efficient clip. Last year, they were fantastic shooting the 3-ball. And the problem that the Lakers have right now, and one of the reasons why I think they need to change the starting lineup, is your backcourt of D'Lo and Reaves isn't athletic. It's not great defensively. D'Lo's been solid defensively. Austin Reaves has basically been an open door. But the kind of offset of like, okay, well, they're not great defensively, but it could still work and you could still win a championship with that starting unit, especially when Vando comes back, right? Because Vando's the guy that will fix the defensive issues. But the idea is like, okay, the way you offset their liability on the defensive end and the reason it works so well in the playoffs is both of them can shoot and score the basketball. They're two guys that could go give you 20 each. But they're not doing that. Like, Reaves will go get you 20, but then D'Lo will be terrible. And then D'Lo will give you 20, and then Reaves will be terrible. And it's like they're not shooting efficiently enough to offset the bad defense, right? And then you add in all the new guys, and it's like almost all of them outside of Wood and Reddish have been hurt. Taurean Prince has missed games. Jackson Hayes has missed games. Gabe Vincent is still missing games, right? So it's like even the new signings, we're not able to integrate and build chemistry and develop and kind of put this team together. So in a lot of ways, I understand the argument, like, and I agree to an extent. Like, we can't fully judge this team till everybody's healthy, but there's still a lot of issues that, whether guys are healthy or not, shouldn't be issues. Right? Like, D'Lo and Reaves shouldn't be some of the worst shooters in the league this year, like, especially compared to volume, right? Like, that shouldn't be the case. They're too good of shooters and offensive threats. That's the whole point. That's why everything flows so well with those guys. But neither of them are playing well. Neither of them are consistently playing well. Let me rephrase it, right? They're not consistently playing well. They each have like a game where they play well. And until everybody kind of figures that out, the lack of energy, the lack of effort, the lack of rebounding, stuff like that, a lot of the rebounding issues is the Lakers are trying to emphasize getting back in transition. But that works when you're hitting shots, right? Like if D'Lo and Reaves were hitting like they were last year, then you don't need as many offensive rebounds and stuff, and you don't need to go chase down the offensive board as frequently because you have guys that are able to knock it down more times than not, right? So you can just, hey, ignore the rebounds, get back in transition, because that's how we were getting killed last year by teams like Denver and stuff like that. And we've been a lot better in transition this year than we have in the past. So that's working, but when you're not hitting shots and then you're not trying to get second chance points, that's where the issue lies of like, well, now we're giving up all these second chance points because we haven't been terrible defensively. A lot of people feel like, oh, we've been like the worst defensive team in the league. We haven't been. We've actually been pretty good defensively. If you even watch the games, we've been pretty good defensively. The problem is every time we get a good defensive stop, we're giving up the offensive board, giving them another opportunity, which means they're getting more volume, which means that they're knocking down more shots, and then you're getting that separation. And then on the other side, we're trying to emphasize getting back on defense, which is fine, but we're not hitting shots, and therefore we're not getting the defensive board, which then leads to us having just basically have to make up double at that point, and it's just not working and flowing. And then the guys that have played, like Christian Wood, last night was his opportunity to shine. That was his moment. And he took one shot, had 1 point, and like 4 rebounds in 22 minutes. Like, I'm not saying the guy had to go off for 30 and 20, but you couldn't even give me 10? you couldn't do, like, in a game where you don't have Anthony Davis? Like, we needed him, right? Cam Reddish has been great defensively, but is just not there offensively, and he's struggling, and he can't dribble the basketball and looks rough. But also a lot of it, and that ties into the injuries, a lot of guys are having to play minutes and positions that they wouldn't otherwise, right? Like, Cam Reddish was a guy that was like, is he even going to get minutes and play this year? To now he's playing 25 to 30 minutes a game because we don't have any other options, right? Where Cam Reddish, like, he'd be great in spots, right? Like, so let's say Jared Vanderbilt plays 20 minutes, right? Well, you could, when Jared Vanderbilt's getting some rest, you could, for 10 minutes a game, throw out Cam Reddish and just tell him, like, don't worry about score. Like, if you have the open shot, take the open shot. But don't worry about dribbling and doing all this fancy stuff. We just want you to exert all your energy on the defensive side. So when Vando goes out, you could put Reddish in and maybe even run those two together in spots if you need to just get a stop at the end of a quarter or the end of a game or whatever, right? And you could do that rather than him having to play 30 minutes and having to take on a bigger role and needing him to hit shots and needing him to have an offensive bag. And it's just, we can't rely on that, right? And then, you know, hopefully when Gabe Vincent gets back, hopefully he can start hitting shots because he's been shooting the basketball so poorly, which has been a problem too, right? Which was a concern that I had, and I've talked about it on numerous occasions, that, like, you know, this is a guy that shot poorly for the Heat last season also, but picked it up and shot 38 to 40% in the playoffs, right? That seems to be a trend with him. His playoff shooting doesn't seem to translate in the regular season. But it was the idea of, like, he has hit 38 to 40%. So can he get back to that with the looks that he's going to get compared to other places, you know, compared to like Miami, where, you know, teams are more defensive inclined to him, where on the Lakers, you got like a LeBron James, a D'Lo, a Reaves, a Anthony Davis, right? Like, you got all these guys that can kind of just take away from Gabe Vincent's attention and allow him to get more open shots. But, I mean, the fact that we are the worst first quarter team in history, it's crazy. The worst 3-point shooting team in the league this year is crazy, right? Like, it's just, you're not winning games that way. And we got to figure it out. And to me, a lot of it starts with D'Lo and Reaves. And that may that may be something that that is a lot of pressure to put on those guys, but we're just asking them to do what they've done their entirety of their career, like more so D'Lo than Reaves, right? Like D'Lo has been an automatic 17-point-a-game guy that shoots efficiently and effectively. Like he's done it everywhere, even with us, the Lakers. The first stint, like he was giving us quality on pretty good efficiency, right? And then Reaves, right? But you see, like when they're on, like when Reaves has a good game, he's ridiculously efficient. When D'Lo has a good game, he's ridiculously efficient, right? Like D'Lo will go give you 22 points and shoot like 10 of 12 from the field or something like that. And you're just like, dude. Or Reaves will go and give you, 20 points and be 8 of 9 from the field and then knocking down some free throws and then some threes and stuff. It's just, but when they're not consistently being efficient like they were last year. Like that's what was so great about those two last year is they were just efficiently good and knocking down shots. They're not doing that this year. Like a great example is the Houston game, right? You look at D'Lo, he shot 50% from the field and 9 of 18, gave you 22 points, and he was 4 of 7 from 3. Efficient, right? Like that's the problem. But you look at Reaves, when he's not efficient, he's terrible. 0 of 4 from 3, 2 of 9 from the field. So it's not even like, it's not like his, like last season, Reaves and D'Lo, like their bad games, they had the occasional game where they shot like this, but it wasn't very frequent. Like D'Lo and Reaves' bad games last year where they were like, 4 of 11. So they were still like, 38% from the field, and which is not great, but it's not like atrocious. And they'd be like, 2 of 6 from 3. So they're still like 33% from 3, which again is not atrocious. But no, like their bad games is like, they're like 18% from the field and like 12% from 3 or 0% from 3. That's been a big difference this year, right? It's like D'Lo and Reaves' bad games last year were still good enough to help us win. Where D'Lo and Reaves' games this year are they're becoming a big problem. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? Is this a surprise to you? Is it not? I already feel whatever your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it, so let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. I will see you all in the next one. Thank you.